All right. No more introductions or telling you what I'm doing. So what I've got to do here, I guess I got to correct the camera a little bit, but I am done with Samuel's 2. And the thing here is whoops, I forgot to set up my chats. So what I'm doing here is I'm proving that there's first writers formats and a lot of the books of the Hebrew text. And what I've been doing is I put up maybe 800 videos, now 700 and some many videos, and most of them, or pretty much all of them, but maybe about 10 are really about the text, how I'm editing the text. And that's so people in the future will know why I changed everything. So this is pretty much me just recording for history. But pretty soon I will put this up for sale. But I got to start a publishing company yet and then put that out. But the first hardcover I'm going to put up as an auction on eBay, I believe. But let me see here. Now I got to go to this one here. This one's always the scary one. Really good. Okay. So I believe I've got this figured out for vertical. That's the whole problem that I've been having. But I believe vertical is now running up and looking good here. So got the chats open for you if you want to make a comment while I'm live. But right now, this is the formats that I found. This is the 4-verse. And a 4-verse goes like, whoops, that didn't work. Okay. 2 major words in the gray means I added to complete the format. And then the least amount of small words to combine them together. Okay. Now what happens is that these first 2 here, this becomes like a comma and a period to become like a longer sentence. And then another longer sentence. But what you'll also notice is that this becomes a paragraph. Okay. Now there's a 3-verse format that actually is the first sentence. I guess I'll be scrolling down. I'll do that one when I get there. But this becomes a small paragraph. And when the text repeats and kind of changes a little bit of the subject but stays the same as the subject, these 2 become like a larger paragraph. So you'll see that I have like a double space here between them. And you can see how this looks when I blow it up. Okay. Now what I'm doing is I've went through and I've put them all titles on these. So when I combine them with all the other books, I will have a start on the titles, and then I'll be able to place these in order. I'm going to make one long, great big book for us to have, and they're all going to be the first writer's formats. Now, this is some of my notes yet to me when it's underlined. I'm not sure if it's the tribe Judah or the tribe Simon here. So that's some of those notes. But here are some of the things that when I did do this, I do so much editing that I guess I should bring this. Let me show you what this text starts. What I do is I look at all this. These are, I'm changing these words with I put a forward hash or a forward slash, and then I put in a word that if this means this, I just say that I'm changing it to this. So that's what the green text means. And then this is how my note of how I add a text. This was when the word is fall, and it's a little bit too far away when I'm putting in the word that's needed to be here, knelt. Then I put it in yellow. Anytime you see these red, this is words that I'm using that I say that needs to be to connect the verses together now and make reasonable sense. All the blue here, I'm getting rid of. So that's what my editing begins to look like when I'm going through the text. And there'll be a lot of times, like, let me show you here down at the end. See this? I threw out chapters because the stories are not true. But that is why these videos are here. As I go through and I explain what I need, what I don't like, or not that I don't like, but give you reasons why they're not true. So I guess maybe I should look to see. Okay, you guys get to see this on the screen pretty good then. All right. And here I decided to change the horse riders because they had horsemen here. And I'm just going to change it to the word men because pursuing him, and they were close. This is when Saul, King Saul, was fighting the Philistines, okay? So when I'm reading them like what you've seen and editing and how bad it gets, this is the chance for me to get rid of all these little things and then just say, okay, this, I need this word to smooth it out and read better for the reader to read. So that's what you're seeing here. And I will be noting when it goes from a 3-verse or a 4-verse to a 2-verse, or a 3-verse or a 3-verse to a 4-verse. Now, I was going to explain a 3-verse. Now, a lot of the writers use this as a statement. And then this comma here actually becomes a sentence with those 2 verses, but they usually define the statement. Okay, now there's different styles of writers, how they wrote these. And the more you read them, you'll get a sense of that's how I can tell this was written by this one person or this was written by another person. So, but what I wanted to do is go through here. These are still things that I got as unknown. This was going to be the guy that David's priest at that time when David was fleeing from Saul, that Saul had killed the highest priest and all of his descendants, supposedly 80 people from the family, but one guy escaped, ran to David, and David made him his priest because their father to son is supposed to be a priest in the Levite line. And then he would, then this guy here would be able to ask our Creator, because you got to remember at the time that David, or when, I guess I should tell you that the text is missing a lot in the Bible from the time that after Joshua passes out the promised land. There is like 100, 200, maybe 250 years missing. And then all of a sudden we have the Samuel, book of Samuel, that starts out with Eli as the priest. And then what happens there is, from the text we learn in there, is that they've already separated themselves into 2 different nations or groups. But then it's like the priests were the ones who talked to our Creator, or the judges our Creator would talk to, like they did with Moses, like he did with Moses or Joshua. Then in here we're going to have start having actually a prophet come along in the story. So that is probably going to be one of the first prophets, I believe, in the text, that if you were to read it in order, if it was actually in order for you. But I just wanted to go over some of the major ones here, because these are pretty easy to understand what I did. Okay, here I had this as part of the 4-verse format. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And it didn't make any sense that they were long wars. Now, could I have put this word here, up here, and say, hey, I'm adding this, and then the word long should be put over here, and say that's what I've edited now to get these verses. But the word battles from war, maybe that is closer. But I felt that I was adding this, and I just thought, okay, I'll just add it as my words to explain the text, because what's going to happen as I've started putting some of the text together, there has to be this, there's many battles that have been going on from the time that after Saul had passed away. There's another story where Abner takes the last son from Saul and makes him king, and he's going to rule for 1 or 2 years, and that these battles are going on. And when you read the text, when I've got it cleaned up, you'll see that this little bit that this here has to play out, that there were many battles. Now here, this is just double text. You can see that it's a 4 verse, and what I did was I tried to fit it into the text when I'm doing, like, say, can this go someplace else in this text, because you're going to see me move stories around in this text, to try to get it into a good order for me to understand, okay, this the best order I can get at this. Now let me see how correct in order I got it when I fit it with the other text, because there's Chronicles 1, there's Samuel 1. I'm trying to think of what other books we have of David, and I think those are the 3. But when it gets down to David's story, he's in like 3 different books at 3 different times. And then when I got here, I had these 2 that I had, okay, I'll see if this is needed, do I need to make it a 3 verse, or do I need to make it a 4 verse? And when I read it, I figured, hey, look, I've got them grouped here, and I've got this grouped here. So this really was stuck in and is not needed anymore. So, because it really wasn't a contest when I was reading this. This was about many battles, and this was like the final battle of battles, and it wasn't many. It wasn't like thousands against thousands. I would say this one was probably a group of maybe 40 on 40. Okay, so, but it was a clash of the 2 commanders, one from the commander Abner for Israel, and Joab, the commander for David's men. Okay. That fuchsia colored word, that was a word that they were added in the 1977 NSAB, because that's the text that I'm using, word for word in order, just like I showed you correcting a lot of this. Okay, this story is moved up. Yeah, that's what I moved up, was I moved up this. So that, I guess I didn't see that note. Did I have that note there and I missed it? Yes, I did. Sorry, I missed that. But that was one of the first ones that I moved around to put in this area. So this story made sense because of it, because right here it says no longer did they continue to battle anymore. And down here, it has to be a long war between them. That it just doesn't make sense that way. So to make that text, I moved it up above this text. Here, I'm moving the Abigail to put in the correct wording, so now we have the list of his sons being born. You don't need to say Abigail after the firstborn, so just putting the words together correctly to read in order. And I'm still thinking of how to get rid of long names like this and make it simple. I'm going to be changing a lot of these names later, and that's because I have a hard time pronouncing their names. So I'm going to try to make it all easy enough for everybody in the future, because the names, the major names, I will not change. But names like this, they need to be changed. because I changed this guy's name big time, so it's easy to read right now. Dell, okay. And the guy I know, Dell, he's gonna like that. But let's see. I don't want to do it too fast because I know people have this problem of when they see things that can cause them to have spasm reactions, and I'm purposely going slow here. And this was his. I put it in here because I was a blank before, but I couldn't go back in the story and find it. That it was his brother. These three guys were brothers, and Job had killed them, their third brother. So that's why the story exists, that Abner's going to die after he comes down and visits. That when Job arrived, his brother told Job Abner came to establish him as king. And then the argument down here, when I'm cleaning this up, I had to put in the word king here instead of what, because I had to make it read like, what have you done? Abner, behold, did Abner come to you to be king? It had to be a question, as like he's questioning why Abner came, the argument that he would have to have. So I had to change those words and add these words to actually get this to read right. And then then it says, I had it as, Abner came to deceive you. Then it's got to be him personally talking here. When I realized it's his personal words that were wrote down, I know Abner came to deceive you. Yeah, I realized that there was not enough major words in this verse. So I had to say that, no, these two are the major words in this verse, because I only had one, and then I realized I could, as soon as I took it out, because I was thinking, oh, I already have who this is. So I would have to, I'm using some of the words that were there and then adding my own here to have the influence of what the warriors that were not with him then, meaning that Abner was taken off to the side and was killed by Job. But those guys, they lamented Abner as David walked behind his briar. Now, a briar is like a wood, I guess it's like a stretcher, okay, where I don't know if it was held on their shoulders or by men's hand, and then the body would be laid on there and they would carry it to be buried. Okay, so that's what a briar is. And they buried him in Hebron. This means that these verses, I couldn't think of what needs to be said yet here, but I needed that because if we have this and everybody's 222, I know there's text that's missing here. I've got some idea what could be here, but I couldn't think of that word actually being said in 4 sentences. I got it down 2. So move this story up here. Okay, now I moved this group of text here, and the way I'm hoping is be able to use these words or these letters like in a search through these PDFs to go back and forth, because they won't be needed later, but I wanted to show people why I moved these around. Here, this was 2 4 groups, and I had 3 4 groups in a row, and I decided that these texts were good, that these groupings were really good, and then down here, these were really good, so these 3 had to be put together into 2. And so what I decided is that this, I guess I've decided to leave out, and because I wanted the more important that Job said, why does my Lord want these numbers? And I had actually King want to know, but I could get rid of this when I'm trying to put it in together. This was David commanding a count of the men for war, and then our Creator is going to give him 3 choices of what he's going to do. And this is the new prophet. This is the prophet that came and told him. And these words here that are this way, these are easy enough for you to spot when you're reading. These are words from our Creator, or when you see them highlighted like this in all bold and all caps, that's to honor and respect our Creator's words or past words. Just like they would be these here, but I had to add them. Down here, I had to do a little bit of correcting. I'm like from said to tell. Once you understand tell, then you can understand, because I had to move this word to here. And then when I was reading it again, it still wasn't reading smooth enough, because it has to be tell here. Okay, now this story this is my note to myself, and I didn't really need to move it. I left it here, but when this text here gets moved, it actually falls in line with the next story. So I didn't realize that. I was doing so much that I forgot to move it. So I didn't move it until I get it into the next text when I'm combining them all together. And what's funny about this story here, there is another story like that from 1 Chronicle, and it is so much so like it. It's one of the best examples of the same like text being said, same like by different writers. This is a 4-verse, and I think it's written in a 3-verse. And I'm going to note that when I show you, when I do that. But this here is about, I forgot to take that down. Got to remember to scan around on the chats here when I'm talking. It's kind of like the stories are exact, but when you look at other stories, you're going to see that they are got completely different things inside each other, even though that you're going to read both stories. I can't make up an excuse for them, because I really don't know why they're that bad off. Okay, except for the only thing that I can think of is that when they first started, the atheists, when they got a hold of the text and they seen it like this and they started rewriting to fool the people, they had to write a similar like story. Okay, so they were reading it in columns like they were know that it was there, and later when they did the manuscripts, they just put it all together as one to really confuse people. So, because I believe at that time they had scrolls of like maybe 60, 70 scrolls. If you want to know about this prophet, then these are all the things about this prophet. You want to know prophet with that king and what he did during that king, then open up the book Kings. And then that's why we have Book of Kings. And then there would be a book of Chronicles, which meant they had a book that they would say this is part 1, part 2, part 3, and put it all together in different scrolls, that this is the whole book that we'd use. And if we were going to go for different things, we go to these other books to get more in depth and in detail. But that's where the corruption, because a lot of the texts that you've seen me throw out, there's possible of formats in there, but the story was just too over salted and not truthful. So I didn't use them. I'm not going to let that happen. This here, when I was correcting it, they had to be pushed out, down, and I'm thinking later, I think this story actually got thrown out in the next one, because like I said, 2 of the stories were too, I think the other one was more detailed. You know, this one was just this short from here to here, and the other one's like 20 of these paragraphs like this. So this is the story I moved up. This was labeled BBB. I must have missed that as, it's from down there. I moved this story up here. So if you click on BBB, you'll find it below. was his tent of hides, not curtains. When I read this, or when I was editing it, I remembered that this, maybe they're talking about inside his holy room, which when the tent was made, it was made of curtains. And actually, in Exodus, we find that the opening that they walked in was the south side. So if you want to know which way the house or the tent was set up, the opening to the tent for meeting or our Creator's house for meeting with him is the doors are facing on the south, which makes the most sense because when you open up the door, the first part that you walk into, either the tent or for the house, would be places where they would put up their clothes or have their robes they'd put on there. They'd have the knives, their horns, their plates that they used. A lot of that, David had many plates made. I don't know if they were all made out of gold, solid gold, or were they plates plated with a thick plate of gold on top of them. But you got like 30, I believe there's 30, if you take 12 priests for the tribes, and then the main priest, the highest priest for the king, that's 13. Then you have their assistants, and I would say that they had to have 2 assistants each. So there's like 36 robes there. Okay. And now you're getting the idea how much is in these outer room, the entrance before you get into his meeting room. So that they didn't have any light in there except for the doors being open. And no, it wasn't open for business when it was raining. So, yeah, I moved this group from here to here. And it's pretty important because this here text is going to be why we enter into heaven. This is one of the 2 places in the book that talks about why we will enter into heaven. So it makes more sense reading it this way. Also, Prophesy, he will make a place for you and for my people Israel. Because when you read it the other way around, you didn't quite know what this meant here, what's going on, because the text above doesn't doesn't make sense. And I've got this, that it's grouped here to here. So, but that's what happens when I reread and reread and reread these to get them all done. And then this one here is not needed. So I took it out. Here's that BBB story that I put up. Now this one here, I'm going to move down, and you can see I make them an 8 point to show that they've been moved. I don't think there's many. Okay, now this one here, I changed, say his name was a little bit longer. I changed it to this name. But this is going to be a king from Damascus. And this is actually David's last battle that he has here. So this is all got to be his last battle. And just like, but stopped behind us, I thought of better words when I got to really read it and think about it, because I think it's been a couple days since I've done my last video, that it does take a while to get these and really read and read, think which one is this in the right order. So this I added completely. I had 4 lines there, but this is what happens when you read a lot, that, okay, this is what would have happened, because you got to have these words to make sure that the story below is actually understood. Okay. Otherwise the story is kind of, you got to guess at it. So I want to make sure that what words I put here is to literally tie the stories together. I'm thinking they would have done something like this, so that's what I do. I try to be as truthful as possible, and I try to be as accurate as possible, at least by reasoning and logic. So This text, I moved down. You can see I started just, oh, this was a part of a group. That's why I did that. Because I'm throwing this out, the 4 verse, and I'm moving this 3 verse down or around. Okay. I'm changing this guy's name right now. I can't have it Joram, because that is a king for Israel that started making the people honor and or worship Ra and his daughter, the moon goddess Ashereth. That's what he started in Israel. That really got our creator angry. And I did I did come back and interpreter. I don't think it's spelled right here. Yeah. And I didn't like those. No, that's still wrong. I know there's a U in here, so I corrected it in the next text. I figured out how to spell the word. Bathsheba's name I'm going to change, get a little bit smaller, shorter. This is story I moved up. This is one of the first ones I was telling you about, MJU. I always try to code them with 3 letters, but I've done so many 111 letters that I've got to do multiple choices like this. And this was his 3 choice that he's going to give David. So this needed to be moved up in the correct order. That had to be done after David became king over all Israel, that he wanted to count for everybody. He wanted to know. Our creator did not like that. Okay, now that was all the end of the correcting. I talked about this already in the one I took up. Now this text here is the text that's going to be put into the full book that I've started. So it's going to be a while before I'm back on. I'm thinking about making reaction videos to stupid posts by Christians that are really starting to tick me off when I'm looking through the things on YouTube. The one that really ticked me off is they found they want to say the Ark of the Covenant, but it's actually the chest that hold the 10 Commandments in. Well, there are sizes that are in the Exodus telling us how big that is. Now they overlaid it, and how there's hooks on the side that they strung that they would stick a pole through that's actually overlaid in gold to carry it on their shoulders, so it didn't move, so they didn't put their hands on it. And then the angels are supposed to be on both sides with their hands stretched forth to hold the mercy seat up, and then their wings are coming forward to hide the mercy seat and hide part of the chest. And yet they've got these images and makes it really like pretty, and they got the angels standing like on top of the chest or on the sides that are so huge, and they're just looking like they're praying to it. And it is idiocy, and it just burns me up that they're just feeding people crap, but they're getting the views and getting paid and really deceiving a lot of people. But that's why I'm going to make some reaction videos. But my main purpose here is to correctly tell you the truth about Jesus and our Creator's nation, how he made promises through his people, the Hebrew people, so we can enter into heaven. All right. I will be at another video, but it's going to take a while. But have a great day, everybody. shut up, shut up.